We are back on MorningLine. Allison Fields is with us. I was thinking, too, just how hot it gets, and we were trying to put it... Now, for some reason, one of our pugs is... it almost seems like he has a double coat of fur.
Yeah.
Compared to Betty, she's kind of lighter fur, but she's, fuzzy. Rocky is like double.
Yeah, they make a double thing.
You've heard of that.
Yeah.
Just standing outside, not even in the sun, in the shade, in this heat. Imagine going out wrapped in a wool blanket. How these poor animals handle it. I mean, that's why we kept them inside nonstop.
Part of it as well is that pugs are short-faced dogs. We've had this conversation. Right. We can go back to it. But part of their fur acts as an insulation. Okay. I mean, there's air in between all of their pieces of fur, and that acts as some kind of buffering. Now, the top of their coat may be like burning hot. You know how they get so hot when they're in the sun, but they can keep some air in there that helps baffle that. Now, that is not the case for pugs because they're not heat tolerant flowers. Right. They have nothing to cool themselves.
And dogs don't sweat.
Nope. The only place that they'll sweat is from their paw pads.
Good reminder.
And so the only way that they have to cool themselves is by panting and dragging air in through their nostrils. They have a lot of nasal turbinates, which are tiny little bones that are covered in blood vessels that, as they breathe in, can cool that blood down, and then it goes to the rest of the body. A collie has a really long nose. All of your sight hounds, like your greyhounds and your Afghans, they have these really long noses because they run for a long time and they don't get overheated because they have these long noses that can cool all this air.
Yeah.
Pugs maybe have like bulldogs. This much, like maybe 2 millimeters worth, and bulldogs and Pekingese and Shih Tzus and Lhasas.
Be aware of that. Be aware.
They just cannot cool themselves, so they do not need to go outside. They need to go out and go potty and come back in. Absolutely. Real quick, just with your note about how sometimes the fur can provide a certain degree of insulation, is it worth anyone's while with their dogs sometimes to get them groomed and maybe have some of the, I'm not saying shave them, but maybe thin out their fur? This is a whole conversation, and there are camps that say yes, and there's camps that say no, and I'm a firm believer in if they were designed this way and they've been surviving this way, that maybe that's how they need to stay. However, people have had a lot to do with how these dogs have looked now, and selective breeding and stuff like that. So maybe it would be helpful. I don't know. I don't get into that.
It's tough because like some animals maybe that come from a colder climate and you bring them into the south and maybe, do you thin them out? But I hear what you're saying
maybe you just keep them inside and don't worry about it.
Yeah, so it depends. Okay, let's go to Pat. Pat, good morning. Hi, Pat.
Morning, Pat.
Good morning.
What can we do for you?
We have an inside cat named Bella, and Bella is wanting to sneak and jump on furniture that we're not wanting her to get on. What can we do to stop her from jumping on furniture?
Excuse me while I snort and laugh. You have a cat. Cats are welcome to the world of cats. Cats are really smart, and they're really not that easily trained. They will pretend like they're trained and not do it in front of you, but then you come home and there's fur there. There's something called a scat mat, which is made specifically for this. And I think the trick with those is you put them around and you keep moving them so that every time the cat jumps on it, it startles them. Aluminum foil can work. Like you put aluminum foil across your kitchen counter. And when they jump up there, it makes noise and they jump down and it scares them. And I don't know how long that lasts, but hey, it's a lot of aluminum foil and can get pricey. I think that what you really need to do is really sit down and decide what specifically are you really not wanting the cat on. And then focus on those 1 or 2 pieces of furniture, usually the kitchen counter and the dining room table, and focus on those because it's really hard. Cats have an innate desire to go up. So if they're running around the house, they don't want to just stay on the floor. They are not dogs. They want to be up on the back of the couch. They want to be up, jumping from the back of the couch to the chair. And they want to look. This is how they get out some of their energy and get mental stimulation. And so if you have a cat who's indoors, you really have to be aware of the fact that they need that vertical exploration of getting on things. So let's just try to find the two most important places that you don't want the cat and just focus on that. Good luck.
Cats just do what they want.
Cats are so much smarter than dogs. Dogs are like, okay, I'll do whatever you want if you give me a treat. And the cat's like, what's in it for me? And just bring it to me.
Bring me the treat and I'm going to do it anyway. Wait, which is more likely to abide by your rules, Oliver or Gammon?
Oh, Gammon. Gammon.
So there are differences in cats, meaning that some are going to be more headstrong than others.
And to be honest, the only battles that I have really ever fought are the kitchen counter and the dining room table. Period. And I've had cats that knew those boundaries and did not get there in front of me. Who knows what they do when I'm not there.
Yeah.
But then we got a dog, and adding the dog into the mix, the cats didn't have anywhere to escape the dog other than the dining room table. So then we gave it a pass on if nobody's sitting at the dining room table, the cats were allowed. Well, I now have 3 cats, 2 of whom know the rules. One of them is like, whatevs, Oliver. He's like, no, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. We've water squirted, we've done everything, and it doesn't matter. He doesn't care. So now he goes wherever he wants to go, and that's all we can do. So you just need to understand that cats are not little dogs. They act differently, and honestly, they need the ability to go up and explore and up and down and do stuff in order to keep their little brains happy. And if their brains aren't happy, then we start having behavioral problems like peeing all over the house and not in the litter box and stuff like that. So we want to keep their brains happy.
Good point.
Right?
All right, definitely. Let's go to Evan. Evan, good morning. Hi, Evan.
Yes, I have this little orange cat named Pumpkin, and she's more than a pet. She's an emotional support animal, so I get really concerned for her. Sometimes she scratches herself, or she's licking her paws and biting her nails. But when I check her, there's no fleas or flea dough. What can be causing her to scratch so much?
Well, I think there's going to be a difference between a normal itch. I mean, we all reach up and scratch our head or scratch our arm several times a day, and we don't even realize we're doing it. So if she doesn't have fleas, and a lot of times fleas are really hard to find, so I would suggest keeping her on a good flea control just to be on the safe side. But if she's not causing damage to herself, like licking her fur off or biting her fur off, it may just be normal grooming habits, and cats will bite their nails. Some cats will, some cats won't. I have one that bites his nails, and I have 2 that don't. So sometimes they do that as part of their grooming. So I might suggest a trip to the vet and make sure that they can get you a really good flea control. I would use a veterinary recommended one and not an over-the-counter one. And let's see if that doesn't help, and then maybe let them take a look at everything else and make sure everything's okay.
Do you think there's anything to cats having 9 lives? Okay, I'm only asking because there was a story I posted the other day on Facebook about a woman, not locally, who was doing her laundry. Did you see this? And
yes.
Somehow, some way, a cat fell into the washer and ran a cycle.
35 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, you remember. And she went and opened it, and she was going to move it, and she saw this paw sticking out, pulled the cat out, and they were able to save the poor cat. And the woman felt horrible about it. I have no doubt that she was a responsible owner, and somehow this cat fell in, and she had no idea.
Right.
But it's like the cat survived.
Yeah, that's very rare because we see a lot of cats that, or hear about a lot of cats that went through a washer or dryer and did not make it.
Okay, yeah. Which do you think would be more likely to kill them, the dryer or the washer?
I think it's even.
Because I always think the heat in the dryer would be awful.
Right.
But of course, drowning in the tub, wow.
Yeah.
Well, somehow, we don't know how would the cat have survived that?
Kept his little head up.
I guess so. Incredible.
It was really dizzy.
Yeah, and what is it about cats almost always landing on their feet? You hold them like this, and somehow they're going to flip around.
Okay, all we're doing right now is talking about things that all these kids that are not in school are going to go home and try. Now we're going to have broken cats.
Well, they've probably done. I've done it over, not a floor, on the bed, and just to see. I'm not throwing them. But how is it? They just have an innate nature to land on their feet.
There's studies that have been done. There's something in them that has to do with their balance, and they can right themselves really quickly.
It's amazing,
I don't
even if they're discombobulated.
Oliver can't right himself. He fell over and.
Is Ollie kind of chubby?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's special.
He's special. Not all cats can, so I'm not saying you should go out and drop your cat upside down, but you hear that they land on their feet, and it's incredible skill. We'll take a break. When we come back, Joni and others on hold. We've got some lines
hold on,
open.
we'll be right back.
Allison Fields, right back.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty, above the fruits and
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
We are back, final segment with Allison Fields, veterinarian over at
Hermitage Animal Clinic.
right over there on Lebanon Road
Yep.
in, is it Donaldson Hermitage?
Hermitage.
Hermitage,
Yeah.
okay, right there. Just down from the YMCA where I work out, and I see one of your colleagues.
You do?
Yes, Chris.
It's true.
He and I will talk.
I heard he totally lifted you the other day.
The guy's in good shape, and it's nice to know you have veterinarians taking care of their fitness, much as you do as well. Let's go to Joni next, waited through the break. Joni, good morning. Hi, Joni.
Hello, Nick. Hello, Allison.
Hi.
I'm calling about my two little toy poodles. One's a boy and one's a girl, and they'll be 15 in December. The little girl has went completely blind, and the little boy cannot hear, but he can see. Is there any way that they cannot get rid of, like, cataracts or fix their hearing or anything? The little girl, they play all the time, but she just tends to run around the house and bump into things.
So,
And then the little boy, he can't hear, but he can see, and he just, they're really spunky, but the little girl gets so scared of everything, she wants to stay under the cover. But she's still playful, but is there anything they can do about, her being blind and his ears, he can't hear?
yes.
Okay.
Have you talked to your vet about this?
Oh, I'm
Because
sorry.
so it's okay. It's because there's nothing we can do about the hearing. It happens. They don't make hearing aids for dogs, and if they did, they'd be way too expensive, and it'd fall out of their ears. They'd chew it up, and you'd be very angry. So no. But yeah, if it's due to cataracts that your dog is blind, you can ask your veterinarian for a referral to see the veterinary ophthalmologist, and they do cataract surgeries for dogs. I think it's around $1,200 an eye. A lot of people choose just to do one eye because that way they can see, but they don't have to do the big expense for both. It does require a lot of post-operative follow-up, just like in people. It drops every 2 hours for a certain amount of time, but once you kind of get past all of that, they do really well and they can see. So talk to your vet about a referral for a consultation for a cataract surgery.
Okay, and she talked about vision and hearing. I'm just curious because I think Rocky, our pug, it just seems that, as he's aged now, he's lost his hearing for the most part.
Yeah.
And is that something that's unique to certain
Nope.
breeds,
Nope.
or why does it happen
Why does it
more?
happen to old men?
Same thing. Nothing special. Nothing. No real reason. Nothing that could have maybe prevented it.
Well, they shouldn't have gone to that Led Zeppelin concert.
Yeah. He loved Led Zeppelin. He would always insist on seats next to the speakers.
Right? That's
Darn
the
that
problem.
pug of mine. Okay, so it just happens. It's weird because now
does.
it's funny. He now only responds like he'll be sitting looking this way, and the other dog's
Right.
in front of him. I'll go, "Time to eat, guys," and Juice will get up and he'll turn because he cues off the hearing of the other dogs.
Right. So I always tell people that if you have a dog who has lost their hearing and they're sleeping, this can be a little bit dangerous because in their previous parts of their lives, they heard you coming even though they were sleeping, and when you went up and you touched them, they're like, oh, hey. But now they're dead to the world. They have no idea that you're approaching them, and you can go like this, and they can turn around and snap at you, not because they're mad or angry or anything like that. They're just like, whoa, what's happening? So I often tell people that if you have a dog who is deaf or close to it, stomp your feet as you approach the
Vibrations.
dog. Yeah, get them used to the vibrations. And
Yeah.
I mean, they're used to the walking vibrations, but if you have, if you can stomp a little bit, they can kind of get that, unless you're on a cement floor, and then it's really not going to happen. Your feet are going to hurt.
Do you think, it's interesting, he still barks like a son of a gun.
Oh, yeah.
Can he hear himself
I think
bark?
that they can hear some. I think that they just don't hear great. Like
I think that's right.
Baxter.
Yeah.
Baxter went deaf.
Oh.
Pretty much like a 70-year-old man who's tired of listening to his wife went deaf.
Right.
I mean, that dog, you could call his name, you could tell him to do things, and he would do nothing. He could be upstairs, and I got out his heart guard and stuck my thumbnail in the foil that went around it, which is not really loud, and he would magically appear because he could hear it.
Loves that meaty
He
treat.
was deaf.
If you laid a roast chicken in front of Baxter, would he eat it?
Not unless I told him to.
Really? Gosh, that wouldn't
You
happen
know
with
how
mine.
good he was. He used to sit in the chair with
Oh,
us
that's right.
here.
No, okay, I'm sorry.
Harper.
Harper, though.
Harper would not eat it for a bit. And by a bit, I mean probably about 30 seconds, and as long as I was staring at her. If I turned my back, she would totally eat it. And she would probably eat it in front of me after a minute.
You need to do a better job, because I can tell
know,
you
she's not as
unequivocally,
good as
my
Baxter.
pugs would not eat it.
Oh, you're such a liar. You can't even say that with a straight face.
I just said it.
They wouldn't even have pretended not to eat it.
It would be
They'd
over. That's. Let's go to David. David, good morning. Hi, David.
Hey, Dick, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you, sir?
Pretty good. Hey, you were talking about them firecrackers a while ago and everything. It's been a few years back. I know this boy was supposed to have been a good friend of mine, but come to find out he wasn't. And he took a firecracker. I hate to tell you this.
Oh, no. I know where we're going.
If we're going to talk about mean things to dogs, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. Blah, blah,
All right, well,
blah,
go ahead.
blah,
So,
blah.
what did they do with it, real quick? I know.
He stuck it up to his dog.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, that kind of stuff is that has nothing necessarily to do with fireworks. That has to do
That
with
has to do with
extreme
mean and horrible people.
fireworks abuse, and that's animal cruelty. And as I said, they're prosecuting. If you see anyone, I've heard stories of that and others I won't go into. You've probably heard them all of how fireworks sometimes are used in a cruel manner beyond just the sound to hurt animals. That's criminal, okay? That's criminal. Blowing them off in your backyard, disturbing the dog next door, maybe not criminal if you're doing it where fireworks are legal. But you do anything with a firecracker to an animal, it's criminal. If I see you doing it, first of all, I'm not sure what I'll do to you, because I may end up behind bars. But I can bet you this, you're gonna be reported on it. And if you see it happening, call it. God forbid what this man just described, I hope he called it in. And I know it probably upset him as well. It's horrible. Well, who thinks something like that is all right? A bunch of sickos out there.
Yep.
Sickos, sickos, sickos. All right, so aside from the 4th of July, the heat that we've been dealing with, is there anything else that you have seen of interest that's come into the clinic of late that maybe you should share with our viewers, Allison?
For kitty cats, there is something called Bobcat Fever, which is the layman's term for cytoxoinosis, which is a very long word and hard to say.
Bobcat fever.
But it used to be really geographically limited to areas I don't know, 25 years ago. It was really heavy down in Las Casas. But it is moving because the bobcats are moving, and it's tick-borne. So the ticks get on the bobcats and they get this disease that doesn't affect the bobcats. They're just carriers. The ticks fall off, they lay eggs. The babies are born with this disease, and they will bite your house cat, who this disease will kill.
Okay. And is this newer showing up here now? Or?
Yeah, it's
okay.
So 25 years ago, it was pretty much down in Las Casas and maybe some other pockets across the state, but we have seen 2 cases in Hermitage, and somebody was telling me that they've seen more cases out in the Mount Juliet and Hermitage area, so it's moving. I mean, Las Casas is moving up this way. So it is really, really, really important for you guys with indoor, outdoor cats, or just outdoor cats, to make sure that you have really good tick control on your cats. Please know that there's not a lot of great tick control. The over-the-counter can have some side effects, and you definitely don't want to use dog stuff on your cats because it will kill them. But talk to your vet about what the best product is to prevent ticks on your cats, because that's really the only way to prevent this disease. It is very hard to treat. Very few cases can be treated, and it's a lot of money, and we usually don't have a cat at the end. So it is not anything to joke around with. Get tick control on your cats if they go outside.
And again, you've heard of this in what areas again? You said maybe some in Mount Juliet. Was there a case?
I know Hermitage because I've diagnosed one. Somebody else. I diagnosed one last month. Somebody else in our clinic, I think, diagnosed one. But then somebody was saying, and I can't remember, that they have seen some out in the east side of Nashville.
And from bobcats, which there are bobcats around. Couldn't it affect any other animal like a dog?
No.
No, it's just cats.
It's cats. I mean, I'm sure that dogs. So it's a parasite that gets into the red blood cells, and they like cat red blood cells.
Okay. All right. Hey, are pets, to your knowledge, susceptible to cryptosporidium? Have you heard of crypto? There was a CDC report that just came out about the dangers of getting exposed to that for humans in swimming pools now. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, well, I've had it. I got it from a calf.
You had crypto? Oh.
It's very zoonotic, so it goes from, and calves get it a lot.
You've had it.
Oh, it's a great weight loss program. It's great. I got like 4 of us had it in Vets.
Oh my goodness, I haven't talked to someone who had crypto. That's awesome.
It's exciting.
Okay. Now, fortunately, you're a healthy individual, so you bounce back, but it can be harmful to someone who's immunocompromised or elderly.
It's just really easily spread, and I had never heard of it honestly, in people and swimming pools. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, that's kind of new.
Because literally, it's calves will get it, and so when dairy farmers, or not dairy farmers, but any kind of large animal vet is very well aware of cryptosporidium.
Did they treat it with antibiotics? It's a parasite. How do you treat parasites in general, be it that or any other in an animal? Is it a...
Depends on the type of parasite.
Okay.
There's protozoal parasites, there's worms parasites, helminths, and things like ascarids.
Do you have to kill them with a poison, or do you take an antibiotic? I don't know, does that work? Or?
We typically don't poison people.
Well, I know, but I thought there's something you can give
are dewormers
that kills the deworm.
If they're like worm-like parasites, like hookworms, roundworms, whipworms, tapeworms, we give them a medication that affects their nervous system, that they're invertebrates, and so they have different things.
Nerves.
Not nerves, but anyway, we can affect their nervous system without affecting mammals' nervous system. So we give a dewormer that doesn't have any effect on vertebrates or mammals, and it kills the...
Isn't that awesome?
It's
what a
amazing.
Great thing that
Worms
is.
are really kind of cool. They've been around for millions of years, and they are starting to get resistant to... I mean, they have been doing this for years, but they're really tricky tricksters. I mean, they can survive, man. They are... Talk about things that have been around for millions of years. The crocodiles, these things.
Parasites are like... The whole idea of a parasite, though, doesn't... It doesn't want to kill its host, but sometimes it does, doesn't it? If it gets too bad, it weakens it. Well, if the host dies, doesn't the parasite die?
Not necessarily, because it may only live part of its life cycle in that host, and then once that host dies, it comes out of the dead thing and becomes a different life cycle.
Well,
they have
that's
different.
just
Oh yeah, I'm telling you,
nasty.
they're kind of crazy. Like tapeworms. Tapeworms. Everybody freaks out about tapeworms because they're gross. Those little rice-like worms that come crawling out of your pet's butt. They got those from eating fleas, and the tapeworm egg was inside the flea, or larvae was inside the flea intestines, and the pet ate the flea, and the flea gets digested, and out of the intestines comes this tapeworm.
Which is not related to the flea in any way. It just happened.
No, it was just hitching a ride.
All right, so one thing
That's
after
why we
another.
prevent fleas, because that's gross.
Heartworm's a parasite?
Heartworms are a parasite. They are transmitted by mosquitoes, so they live part of their life, their early life, in mosquitoes in their bloodstream, and then once they are injected or regurgitated back into dogs, who are their chosen host, they then circulate through the body for 4 to 6 months while they're growing up, and then they latch on to the pulmonary vessels and turn into adults.
They said we're done.
Oh, okay.
I love you. We'll see you again in a month.
Sorry to gross you out.
No, that's all right. We'll be right back. Wrap things up after this.